Welcome back to the Cap Report. It's been a minute since my last video. This is my last upload, but I wanted to get something out for UFC 266, Volkanovski vs. Ortega, so here we go. It won't be as in-depth as a lot of my videos have been. I didn't get as much time to work on this as I wanted to, so this is going to be just, a real quick, my initial thoughts on the fights, and then just a prediction for them. This is a pretty good card. We open it up in the women's flyweight division as first-ranked Jessica Andrade takes on fifth-ranked Cynthia Calvillo. And this fight is interesting. I think Jessica Andrade is in an interesting place, but I think she has very much of a similar role to Robert Whittaker at the moment, where in her division, there's the champion, Shevchenko, or in Whittaker's case, it's Adesanya middleweight. And so the champion's at a certain level, and then the closest person to that champion is Andrade or Whittaker. And then after that, there's a big gap between the rest of the division and that contender and then the champion, right? They're like a middle point where they're not quite at the champion's level, but they're at like a level beyond the rest of the division, right? And so I think that's going to play into this. Andrade has got, crazy power, although it didn't really show itself so much in the Shevchenko fight, but I think that's just more so Shevchenko being on another level. I think that, honestly, Andrade should, I don't want to say win this fight comfortably, but I think that she'll win it pretty comfortably. It'll probably be like a second round TKO or something. This is, in 125, she's even said is a more natural weight for her. She feels a lot better at that weight, and if she maintains, the power, she should be set to win, honestly. I don't have too much to say about that fight, really. My prediction, is Andrade by second round TKO. Moving on to the next fight, we have Curtis Blaydes versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This one's an interesting fight. It's a wrestler versus grappler fight. I would say that Blaydes has the advantage here. He's a really good wrestler, and I think there should be plenty of opportunities for him to take down Rozenstruik, just because he doesn't have the greatest, footwork and movement, that there should be opportunities for Blaydes to capitalize on. And if I think he can get into the ground, he should be able to control the fight. Rozenstruik's good, but he's not quite at the top level of the division, right? And another interesting aspect of this fight is both these guys are coming off losses. Blaydes to Derek Lewis and Rozenstruik to Cyril Gahn. That's a little interesting aspect of it. There should be opportunities for even Rozenstruik though, because Blaydes first and foremost a wrestler, he will look for takedowns, and you can take advantage of that. That's how Derek Lewis knocked him out, is he caught him, shooting for a takedown. It'll be interesting if Blaydes tries to stand up with him or not. Really, he should just, play his advantage, play his strength, and just get the fight to the ground. He let Derek Lewis find his distance, his range a bit, and that's how he managed to really kind of get that knockout. I mean, both these guys have passed to victory, honestly, if Rozenstruik can avoid a takedown or two. He's got pretty solid, I think he has 80% takedown defense in his career, at least in the UFC. So if he's got solid takedown defense, he should be able to, avoiding the takedowns and hoping to catch Blaydes in a level change. You can also say, there's a decision route for this. He's probably a slightly better striker than Blaydes, so if he's able to keep the fight standing most of the time, he could probably win on points. For Blaydes, he wants to get this fight to the ground, land those elbows, and that vicious ground and pound, and that's really his path to victory. I mean, you could also make the decision, for him either, if he's able to just take it down, control the fight, maybe stand and be effective in his striking versus Rozenstruik. All in all, that being said, I think my prediction for this fight is going to be Curtis Blaydes by third round TKO. And then moving on to one of the feature fights on this card, Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler 2. A rematch 17 years in the making or something? This is an interesting fight. Nick Diaz is coming off, 5 or 6 year layoff. His last fight was 2015 versus Anderson Silva, and Robbie Lawler hasn't won a fight since 2017. So Robbie Lawler hasn't won a fight in 5 years. So it's interesting. I don't think this fight's as close as it's gonna be promoted to be. Just that long outside the cage is gonna, I think, really negatively affect Nick Diaz. I mean, look at what a year, 2 years did to Conor. Granted, that's different, right? Because Conor came back against, Poirier, arguably the best fighter in his division, and obviously Robbie Lawler isn't that. But by staying active, this sport, evolves and grows rapidly. So staying active is one of the easiest ways to, maintain your competitiveness in the fight game and whatnot. And since Diaz hasn't been in the cage for that long, I think that it puts him at a pretty big disadvantage. On top of that, there's been some rumors, and I'm not sure if I should put stock into it or not, that either he got knocked out in training or in sparring, or that he had some kind of like really like negative thing happen. Another interesting aspect is the whole moving this from welterweight to middleweight, and that being what seems to be more of a Diaz decision than a Lawler decision. So I think there's a lot of kind of negative aspects to this in Nick Diaz's corner going into this fight. This should be interesting. I think that, you know, there could be a finish. I honestly, my prediction is Robbie Lawler, probably a second round TKO. I mean, I could easily see this fight being a decision, but if there's going to be a finish, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Lawler finishing Diaz here. That being said, I could be wrong. It's really hard to say just because we haven't had anything to see from Diaz. Moving on to the co-main event in the women's flyweight division, we have Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. Now, this fight, you got to feel bad for Murphy, right? Valentina Shevchenko is like 1,200, minus 1,200 favorite or something, and it makes sense, really. There's no aspect of the game that I see Murphy being better than Valentina in. And the crazy thing about Shevchenko is, look at her Andrade fight, her last fight, right? People were saying, you know, the argument being made for Andrade possibly winning is her power and maybe being able to get it to the ground and control it. And what does Shevchenko do? She takes down Andrade and she controls the fight. She gets into a crucifix and gets a TKO in, the second round? She basically beat her opponent at her opponent's strengths and advantages in the fight. She's the type of fighter who she's so like far ahead of her competition outside of Amanda Nunes that she really can pick however she wants to win the fight. She can beat you by her strength, she can beat you by your strength, and she almost wants to. She's so competitive that she'll go out of her way to beat you using your strength just to show how much better she is. I hate to be like that, but I don't really think Murphy has much of a chance. It's just a matter of if she's able to make it out of the fight and get a decision, right? She's hard to finish, but I think that ultimately Valentina will find her in probably the third or the fourth round. So for this fight, I'm picking Shevchenko by fourth round TKO. With that, we make it to the main event. Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega for the men's featherweight belt. And this is also a really interesting fight. I'm not sure what to think. I'm really intrigued to see if we've really seen all there's to see with this, Ortega 2.0. I think that honestly, we've only seen him since his time off against Korean Zombie, and I don't know if he really showed us everything in that fight. So I'm interested to see if there's some hidden or new pieces to his game that weren't shown in that fight, or maybe he was saving something. That being said, I think this is maybe a little more even fight than the odds, but maybe it's just I'm not sure who to really kind of pick. I could see it going either way. Volkanovski's a good wrestler, but I don't think he wants to get Ortega to the ground. Ortega's, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so good. I don't know if it's really worth the danger to even try and wrestle. He might be better off just standing with Ortega. If he does that, he's going to want to really just control the pace of the fight, be the aggressor, try and get Ortega against the cage when he can. Ortega's kind of tricky with the striking too. He's got those counter elbows, but more importantly, his stance switching provides an intriguing puzzle for his opponents to solve sometimes, and how it can create distance and range and open up counter opportunities for him. So that being said, and I'm not really sure what to expect for this fight. I think that it will be a pretty competitive fight, and I think it really could go the distance. My initial thoughts for this was I was originally thinking Volkanovski decision. Yeah, I was originally thinking Volkanovski decision, but the more I think about it, I could really see either of these guys getting a finish. Volkanovski shoots for a takedown, and if he shoots for like a double leg or something, I think there's a chance that Ortega can catch him in a guillotine or something. Or Ortega, it's really about just finding his moments and capitalizing on that. So I'm interested to see how it goes. This one I'm really kind of 50-50 on. I'm gonna stick with my original prediction. I'm just gonna go with Volkanovski by decision, but my guess is as good as yours for this one. That was my UFC 266, just initial thoughts, predictions. We're at 16-10 on predictions this year, so not terrible. 60%. If y'all enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Leave in the comments who you think's gonna win or what you thought of my predictions. That being said, this is the Cap Report. Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all. Let's enjoy these fights.